Heavyocity EVOLVE. Alright, so that is Heavyocity EVOLVE, a legendary library. Let me stop that. A legendary library for Kontakt. You have heard this library on countless movies, TV shows, movie trailers, video games, so on and so forth. This library is actually rather old, first released in around 2009, so it's 2019 now. That makes it around 10 years old. However, just using one note there, good sound is good sound no matter when it was originally released. Now this is technically Evolve R2, it's the second release. In this video, we're going to go over everything you would see in the manual, so this will be the only video you need to watch to master Heavyocity EVOLVE. We'll go through each kind of instrument in here, all of the different kinds. We won't hear everything, obviously, but stings and transitions, look at all of the different interfaces, see how they all work, and then towards the end, I'll have a demo of some of these different instruments. We'll also go over the multis and everything else you need to know. Look in the description below for timecode if you want to hop around from section to section. But let's go ahead and start our in-depth look at Heavyocity EVOLVE. Okay, so let's hop right in here to Evolve. Of course, it's in here in Kontakt. Now, right now we're in Pro Tools. You could, of course, run Kontakt and standalone. But let's head up here. Here's Evolve. Here's our instruments. Here's our multis, which, of course, is a collection of several instruments in one multi there. But here in instruments, we have our rhythmic suites, percussive kits, stings and transitions, Tonality FX, and expanded content. We'll go through each of these in their own section. But right now, we'll hop in here to our rhythmic suites, and we're going to start out here in looped percussives. We're just going to grab the first one here, double click to load it up, and let's go over this interface here and understand how it works. Now you can hop between sections if you want, but I would definitely suggest you watch this section because most of the interfaces are very similar, and I'm not going to cover things twice for each interface. So first up, down here at the bottom, you'll notice our keyboard only has, in this case, two kinds of colored keys. A lot of times, if I just press down here, we have different kinds of hits low, different kinds of hits and loops up here, right? To each section, we can see here's sort of a split point. When there's no mapped note on a key, you know that's going to be a different section or a different type of hit. Again, this library is rather old, so we don't have any readout down here for what each hit is. Now we do on our triggers up here, we do have a readout down there, luckily, all right? But we come in here and listen to some of these hits, all right? Different kinds of loops. Now one thing that's cool about a lot of things here in Kontakt, we can always come behind the wrench. This is sort of an advanced thing. Make sure your mapping editor and wave editor are showing. Come down here, we can actually see these loops if you're ever interested in, you can see if I hit my keyboard, this red line, I can see what I'm triggering. Click that, I can see my loop down here. You see it play through there. You know it's going to hit up here, grab something different. Over here. So come in here if you want to actually see sort of what's playing, what your samples actually are. And sometimes you can do things like you can reverse them, you can add more effects. We'll get to the effects later on as well, but kind of a cool thing you can do there. Also, because we are in Pro Tools, look at our tempo up here, right? This is going to be synced, in this case, to Pro Tools. So if I take this up really high to say 300 BPM, our loops and hits there are going to be, of course, at that much higher BPM. So let's take that back down. Of course, if you're running Kontakt and standalone, you can always set that up within Kontakt. So now we'll take a look at the interface for our Rhythmic suites. Here's our master effects. We have a screamer, a lo-fi cabinet, a delay, and a reverb. So here on the screamer, let me just hit a note on my keyboard. That works. Turn the screamer on. Take the drive up. The screamer is basically like a guitar effect pedal, like the old Ibanez tube screamer. The tone, and bright, on or off. And what you can do to all of these knobs here, if I wanted to automate or control this drive control, I can right click it, learn the automation, then I'll turn in this case, a rotary encoder on my keyboard. So now I can, of course, go ahead and play back and adjust that control while I'm playing it in. Do that to all of your different knobs all throughout this interface here. Of course, depending on what host you're in, you can also automate that stuff. In Pro Tools, we come up here and I would find what I want to automate. So here's our screamer drive, add that over here. And of course, I could find that down here to actually, let me just cancel out that. You could find that down here to actually automate. Okay. But that's dependent upon your host. Just remember, you can right click and learn your automation so you can actually adjust things with your keyboard while you're playing it in. So there's your screamer. Let me turn it off for now. We have a lo-fi. We have bits, the S rate or the sample rate, and then noise. We'll turn it on. Take the bits down. So how many bits? Right. Starts to break up. Really, really low quality there. Imagine 2 or 3 bit audio. 8-bit audio, 16-bit, you know. The S rate is the sample rate, so take it way down. It's on 48 basically here. Take it way down. Now that might be cool to, you know, map to a control. Do that. Map it right there. Right. Then of course our noise. Basic stuff there. The cabinet emulates the sound of a speaker cabinet, kind of like a guitar cabinet. Again, we'll hear that. Turn it on. Change the size of it. How big. Nice large one. The air, so the basically the size of the virtual room. Right. And treble, so high frequencies there. All right. Then let me turn this off. Then we have a delay. So the overall level of the delay, the feedback of that, and then the time. So turn it on. You can already hear it there. Change the time here. Now if I pull the feedback way up, that's going to increase that tail length and keep feeding it back in. We're probably going to clip here. There we go. See, it's starting to build up, starting to clip because we have that feedback so high. But our time here, so if we put it down here on 1, that's going to be 1/16th note. Up here on 2 will be an 8th note. 3 is your 3/16th, dotted 8th. 4 is your quarter note. 5 is 5/16th, so on and so forth. Right. You turn this down here. Let's adjust this time. Hear that? If I turn it off, that's just the straight up loop. All right. And then of course a reverb, overall level, the size of that room, and the damping. So damping is kind of like, you know, foam you might put on your studio walls or anything in your room really that sort of dampens or dissipates that reverberation. So it makes it a little more transparent whenever we pull this up. So down here, for example, right, not good, but damp it some. Dampens that high end pretty well. Make the size smaller, level of the reverb down. Right, reverb effect there. Now, what if you want to use a screamer and the reverb. Well, you actually can do that. You can have multiples of these on. Say we like that. Make sure it's on. Maybe I want a delay as well. Turn that on. Change this time down here and the feedback down. There we go. And maybe the screamer as well. So come back to the reverb. You can see it's still on. Delay's still on. Screamer's still on. Okay. And another cool thing you can do, watch this. Let me turn these off. This is just an aside again, but you need to know how to do this. Head back here again behind the wrench, because all of these effects are, within this behind the wrench section of Kontakt, for those who don't know. Instrument effects here. We can see our screamer, lo-fi, our filters there, things like that in here, right? So put on the send instruments too. So here's delay, there's reverb there. That B means they're bypassed right now. Okay, so all of this stuff is actually happening behind the scenes. So that means if I come back up here and reverb, turn that on, and screamer, turn that on, head back behind the wrench, you'll actually see that screamer's on and reverb is on. So you could come back here actually and add more effects if you wanted to. All right. That's more about how Kontakt and how all of these instruments actually work. So over here we see HP and LP. That means high pass and low pass. Basic stuff here. If you don't know what that means, let me pop open an EQ right here so you can see this here. So right here is a high pass. Right here is a low pass. That's essentially the same thing here. So we're setting the cutoff point. At what point are we allowing the highs to pass, which a high pass cuts out the lows and a low pass cuts out the highs. Okay. So a high pass lets the highs pass. So in this case, we set our cutoff point here. That means everything down here would be cut out. All the content up here would go through. All right. And of course the opposite for the low pass. That's just a visual look at what that does. And the resonance would be, let me turn this back on, would be something like this. So you set your cutoff point. Let me set it, say there. And then resonance would do this to it here. It would resonate around that cutoff point. Something like that. Okay. Just a visual look what that does. But let's actually hear this here. Use the same loop for now. High pass on, then cut off. We're cutting out the lows with the high pass. All right. Now again, that might be cool to actually either automate or of course play in with your keyboard by right-clicking and learn that automation. But let's do this here. Let's make it resonate. Now it's going to resonate around there. We can sweep through now for some really cool effects. The amount here. All right. And of course, the low pass is just the opposite. Once those lows pass, we're cutting out the highs now. We can resonate the percentage and do a sweep. So again, if you want to learn that automation, here we go. We have both those filters there together, as you can see. And we can learn this too, if we wanted. Let me actually click here and change this. Put that on a different knob because they were in a group. So now, let me put this right there. So now you can play back. And play all of that cool stuff in. Or of course, draw on that automation in your DAW. Down to our amplitude envelope. So a basic ADSR, attack, decay, sustain, and release. Let's use the same loop because we're pretty familiar with it. If I take the attack up, it's going to kind of slide in a slow attack. Right? Instead of just coming on. You hear this even more with single hits and things like that. So let's go ahead and just to show this off a little better here, just grab a hit and we'll just drag this in here, our percussive kit. So take the attack up, slides in, right? And the decay, so how quickly the sound drops to the sustain level after the initial peak is reached. So I can take sustain down, make it decay fast versus long. Right, takes a bit longer there. You get rid of this. That's a good sound there. So pull that down, pull decay down. Right. Kind of decays down. Pull the release way down. This goes off now. As soon as I let go of the key here, you see. More of a pad-like sound now. More atmospheric there instead of impact. Release, pull that release up now. Now it goes on. I have released the note, but it's going to keep going on there. Just kind of fades out now, right? So if I hit it now, not getting anything because again, we know our decay has to be up somewhat. Decays right down to that sustain. Right. Release the note. Goes right off. A little bit of release. That kind of continues a little bit past where we released the note there. So you might want to play with release from time to time too on certain passages if you don't want them to just just stop. A little more. And release. All right, so that is your ADSR, your amplitude envelope here in our Rhythmic suite. Now we'll move on to trigger effects. And this is going to be similar for a bunch of the different interfaces, but we'll look at it here in the Rhythmic suite. It's going to be the same thing. So head to trigger effects. And right here we have dirt, saturate, cabinet, a bunch of different effects. All right. So up here on our virtual keyboard, we can see where those are mapped. If I hold down a key, trigger effect comes on. Ready? So dirt, here's saturate, cabinet. All right. So we're triggering the effects with these keys, either on our, our actual keyboard, or by, of course, pressing them in here, or by flipping them on. And then flipping them off. All right. So let's hear this here. Here's dirt, saturate, cabinet, lo-fi, a filter, EQ sweep, it's a panner, pans back and forth, rotator, pitch envelope, right, that pitch is going everywhere, delay 1, a glitcher, and delay 2. All right. And these trigger effects are meant to be sort of a performance while you're playing things in on your keyboard. You can, of course, draw these in your DAW as well and find the correct range, which is right there. And I would, of course, trigger that. As you can see, this note here, triggering dirt, this note here, triggering the cabinet, right? So if I just wanted that on for a little bit, do it as such. And as such, of course, there has to be sound to actually hear any of that, right? Just draw that in there. Put this on clips so you can actually see what's going on in there. And then play that back. So there's that trigger effect. There's the other one. All right. Okay, so that is your trigger effects, and you're going to see these through a couple different interfaces, but everything works exactly the same way. Of course, you can see the actual notes they're mapped to up here. And as long as you have your keyboard, your virtual keyboard turned on, you'll see that down here in those red notes in this case. I could trigger both of those at the same time. Now maybe I want a third layer on that. This here. So let me go ahead and trigger these two. Now I'll trigger the third. You hear that? They're out of time. So I might need to count that in, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. All right, I'm just mentioning that because you can trigger things, so they're not actually matched up in time. Of course, you can see that in your DAW and just simply, adjust those notes to the correct bar. All right, but that is our rhythmic suites, everything you need to know here in this interface. You now know pretty much everything you need to know about Evolve, but we're going to carry on now and move on to the next interface. Okay, so back up here to Instruments. Going to do Rhythmic Suites again because we have the Sequence and Arpeggio interface in here. We can do either of these, doesn't really matter here. Let's just come back here, and we'll grab our xylophone. So this interface, a little bit different, not that different though. So obviously our effects, we already know about that stuff, right? So we hear that here. Reverb on, obviously. Screamer. Right, we already know about all that. Make sure those are off. Okay. Over here, we have Learn KS. So learn our key switches. You can see our key switches right now are down here. And whenever I press one, it changes this preset for this sequence right here. See? Boom, 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 boom. As such. So I can hit learn key switch. I can hit any note I want. So maybe right here. And now those are going to go chromatically up from wherever I happen to click. So again, I can move them down here if I want. Move the keyboard up here, learn the key switch. Of course, press the key on my keyboard as well. Puts them up there. Of course, I don't want them there. Let me put them back down on this C right there. So I can change this around. See that sequence down here? Of course, you can copy presets, paste presets to knob, clear the presets. All right, so if I wanted to copy it, move to a different note or a different sequence there, we can always paste that in there. So then we have the same one. All right, we'll get to what this actually does here in a minute. But we have 3 different sequencers in here for 3 different patterns for a velocity, filter, and pan there as well. And here we have input quantize. We have the tempo right here. So it looks kind of confusing, but it's not that bad. Let's put this back up here to private dancer. And now we'll go ahead and actually hear some of this here. So switch my preset by using a key down here. Of course, on your keyboard as well, or programming that in your DAW. So our velocity sequencer right here. Let's go ahead and just draw in here. Really low notes and then really high sequences right there. Okay, so I'm pressing down on the key. Let me do it in here so you can actually see it. I'm going to press down on a key because we have this all the way down to 0. All of these steps are basically going to be silent for the velocity. All right. So press down and then it comes on. Of course, this is dependent on our tempo here. So 3/64, here's a quarter, press down and hold on. There it is. Okay. And it's hitting all at the same velocity. So now pull this velocity up here. So a little bit, a whole lot, a little bit, a whole lot, a little bit, a whole lot, right? And then I'm just going to be kind of random right there. Do this again. Hear that? We also have this panner going on at the same time too. As you can see, just want to show how this works. So we're going left to right and left to right and left to right and left to right. We do those all one way, these all one way, these all one way, this all one way here. Here they go back and forth now. Come back to velocity and pull this all up here now. So we get a good velocity on each of those hits, back to the pan, and you'll see this now. Jump back and forth, right, from ear to ear. Okay. Take the tempo to a different one. Right, much quicker there. So our tempo here, of course, controls the rate, right? Slower or faster. And you have your different sequences in here for whatever you want. As we already mentioned, the different presets. Then we have input quantize. Now the input quantizes any notes you play to the next step according to the host tempo and the selection made, of course, in this menu here. So quantize it, whatever you play in, to a half, right? Play another note there. Another note, quantize the bar. And we have a filter knob here. So this controls the frequency range of the filter sequence, or the sequence right here. So we'll do it way up here and then way down here to kind of really hear it, right? All right, hear that? So if I pull this down, not hearing anything in this case because it's so low. Pull it up here. Okay. You can reverse that just so you understand what I'm doing here. Down here. So that's this part here. That's this part up here. All right, so you can use this, of course, for creative effects. Right click, learn the MIDI automation there. All of your different filters here. Choose presets. All kinds of different sounds. Then we have sustain. I pull this way down. Giving little kind of taps, right? The steps aren't very long. A little bit different. You're going to probably hear it more on different things. Depends on what you have loaded up here. So hear that there. Pull the sustain down here. Maybe come here and just check this out here. All right. Pull it up. All right. So the sustain is of course, the sustain of each step of the sequence there. Double click to enter a value there. All right. So once again, way down or way up. All right. Randomizer here for different sequences. All right. And a reset for each of our different types here as well. If you get everything all messed up, just reset it. That's what it sounds like without anything. And then head in here. Well, actually, let's just grab a preset. Then we have sort of a, arpeggio going. Of course, you can hold down multiple notes. It's a chord. All right. That is your arpeggio interface. Okay, so back over here to Evolve under Instruments. Let's move on to Percussive Kits. We're going to go pretty quick through this here because the interface, we basically already know it. But here is your Percussive Kits interface. Now, if we look over here again, you can see this says no TFX. That means no trigger effects. So if I load this one up, the interface is the same, except we don't have trigger effects down here like we do on this one here. All right, so all of that stuff is in the naming conventions whenever you load up your instrument. All right, so now we have, this is called Drum Bits Kit. Bunch of individual percussion. All right, so real quick through this interface, because we already know what everything does. Reverb, delay, cabinet, lo-fi, screamer, on or off. We already know all this. I don't need to cover it twice. Filters is exactly the same as it was in our Rhythmic suites. Amplitude envelopes, again, same thing. Let me find a better sample here. Slides in now. Decay, sustain, release. Pull this down. Right. All right, and trigger effects. So we already know how all of this works. Our red keys way up here. Trigger those with my keyboard. All right. So that is your Percussive Kit interface. Moving on, stings and transitions. Again, we'll come through and listen to some of these later on. But right now, let's just look at the interface. Again, we're going to be pretty quick with this because it's it's the same thing. So again, your master effects, your filters, and your amplitude envelope. We've already seen this same thing that we have in the Rhythmic suites. So I don't need to go over this again. We already know about all this stuff, and trigger effects right there. Same exact stuff. Of course, some things in here have no trigger effects, so no TFX means we would not have that option there. Use your attack on that. Change the release. Goes right off. Right. Already know about all of that. High pass, low pass, and trigger effects. All right, so that's our stings and transitions interface. Next up is the tonality and effects, bass, melodic, pads, and effects in here. Again, going to be pretty quick with this one because guess what? Same exact thing. So we almost don't even need to go over it, but just slide in a little more. Comes up and then decays down to my set sustain level. Goes up and then goes down, right? It's right off. Already know about all that stuff. All right. Same effects in here. Not going to go over that again. High pass, low pass filters. All right. Same stuff in here. If we go to melodic, let me get rid of this one here. Do vocals. Throw this up real quick. You can see how our key splits are down here. All right. We'll go over more of that later on. All right, so now we'll come in here to the expanded content. I don't need to go over this stuff because we already know what it is. As long as you watch the first section of that video, all of this stuff is going to be the same. But this here is marked with MW, so turn it down a little. Pull the mod wheel down, pull it up. All right. So this is going to work with all of these marked mod wheel, E and V, so the envelope there. Let me turn this down here. All right. Mapped looped slices. You can see here, A -1, A sharp -1. Let's just load this up. Kind of like a little element of it. All right, head behind the wrench here and come down here. You look up here, see what we're hitting. Select that slice. So that's what we're hitting right there. Now we're hitting that there. Come down past this blank key. Now we have a sequence down here. Okay. So over here, hitting right here, select that. Actually see that playing down here. Interface is the same, but this is A -1. So here's the B -1 there. Both of those together. Mute that one. All right. So this is the expanded content that they added, some elements of stuff, right? Here's by key. You can come in here and probably don't need to go through the rest of these because they're pretty much the same thing. All right. So that is your expanded content, more percussive kits. They've added some big toms. Again, the interface is the same. We already know about all this stuff, so we don't need to cover that again. Big toms there. Again, we can always actually see those hits back here. If we want to look at the samples, make sure that's on there. So that is your expanded content. All right, so now you should know exactly how Evolve works, but let's look here at creating a multi, because of course the power of Kontakt is creating multis, and this is not specific to Evolve. One of the great things about creating multis is you can of course use a diverse range of different instruments and put them all into one rack, have them all be triggered with one note or one MIDI track or several MIDI tracks, up to you. But focusing on Evolve here, we'll get to the multis here in just a second, but if you want to create your own multi, all you do is load things up as we have already done. So let's just choose something at sort of random here and see what we have. All right, if I don't like it, I can switch it out. So we can switch with our arrows up here. We don't have snapshots because snapshots weren't around when this was released. Although you could save your own snapshots if you want. Hear that? If you don't like it, again, switch it out here. Let's just grab this one here. All right, pretty cool. Now what about another one? Maybe rock pop. One down here. And just to hear this, put that on Omni. Nope, don't like it, get rid of it. Go to Electro Tech. Again, Omni for the input, for now anyway. Just so I can play with my single keyboard here. It's kind of cool. All right, take it off of solo. So now we have two going together. If I mute the Electro Tech, just the dramatic evolved. Okay. So do we want some percussive drum bits? Here's ethnic drums. Throw that in there. We'll create a multi here real quick. I'm not even going to listen to that. Let's just grab some stuff here. So sweeping, that sounds cool. Why not? And maybe this, why not? Throw that in there. And we'll make our very own multi here. So melodic, let's go for other. Throw this in here. Grab something else down here. Vocals. Now, let's go for guitar maybe. Throw that in here. Very good. Come back and do a bass. So now we've built our own multi. And let me close this down. Close it up. And what we can do is set all of these in here to trigger with the same note. Now again, this depends on if you're using Kontakt standalone or in your DAW. I have it on this track, right here. And I need to show instrument there. And we have all coming in here and being sent out to channel 1. Right, so we're on A channel 1. If this was on channel 2, just getting input down here because it's on Omni. All right. So put this routing back to 1. Now we get input there from my MIDI keyboard. Okay. That's what I'm talking about if you don't know what I mean by routing. So what you can do, one option is maybe you want to hear all of these together. Just come through here and just put all of these on Omni or whatever specific channel that you want. Okay. As such. And right there. So now whenever I hit one key, doesn't sound great, really loud, right? But we would come in here and of course adjust our levels of everything. We play back real soft. That needs to go down. What else we have playing here? That needs to go down. Now, if you see something not playing, I can put this in focus by clicking in this area here. Now it's in focus, so I can see the notes that would trigger this. I can also solo it, and then maybe solo this, and then I will switch my keyboard down here too, so I can actually see what keys each of these instruments cover. So solo this one. Too loud. Solo that one. Too loud. Okay. So here's our really cool multi here. Playing all of those at once. That's one way to do it, of course. This bass doesn't go well to be played all the time. That's pretty cool, though. So we have the string scratchers going. And these two drums. All right. Use these things, stack them up, use them together. Play chords, you don't just have to play one loop at a time. Play multiples. It's more interesting. It's a full chord. It's a full chord there. All right, so really build up those layers. Don't just be, playing one loop over and over. Really layer those things up. But if you want to save your own multi here in Kontakt, come right up here and save multi as, and we can call this my, or, you know, whatever you want, whatever name you would prefer to give it. You can see it's saved here in the proper folder. Hit save. So now we have my evolve multi there, which we can access whenever we want. It's right here now in our multi folder here in Evolve. So if I load up a different multi, I can always get back to that amazing masterpiece we just created, right? Always get back to that right there. All right. So that is putting things together and setting up your own multis here with Evolve. And now we're going to look at the multis here, which we've sort of already looked at, but let's just double click, or we can drag it over, pull this in here. And if you actually want to expand the interface to see what's going on here, although I could just hit one key, sounds good. Of course, we're just triggering that one here, just the dramatic evolved, no trigger effects. But to expand it, hit your plus right there. So now we have the interface, minus to minimize it, or to expand all of these at once, use this button right here. Hit it twice, and all maximized or all minimized. So as we've already discussed, the the routing, for a MIDI, this is coming in A1. This is coming in A2. Now, of course, this is going to kind of depend on your DAW, but I could, just using my one keyboard I have here, to switch that to 2. So now I press a key on my keyboard, triggering this here now. Right. Now, one thing to note, you can always trigger anything, no matter what it's routed to here in Kontakt with this keyboard, depending on what is selected. So look at this hugeness combo. Nothing, right? We just select it here. And now we get that. And nothing else, right? If this was selected, just that's going to play because they're on different routings. If this was on 1 as well, even though this might be selected, still going to play both. Okay. So just keep that in mind. So if that's on 1 and 2 and 3 and so on and so forth, I can always switch the input over here, my DAW. So on to 3. Right. As such, of course, we already know we could put this all on A1 or all on Omni if we want to play everything with one key and one single MIDI track, whether that's our instrument track here in Pro Tools or one single MIDI track, right? So one key and all that's going. Of course, I can do multiple keys. 2 keys at once. But some of the power of the multi in Kontakt, not just with Evolve, but of course Kontakt, is we can load up a bunch of things and play them with separate MIDI tracks. So let's come back here and put this on 2 and make sure this is on 3. And this is on 4. And I think everything else is already routed properly. Very good. And we have a total of 8 tracks, which I already have laid out here. MIDI tracks. We're good to go. So what I can do is, these should already be routed properly, but if they're not, we can always do that. Kontakt. This will be 2. And make sure this is routed properly. That, of course, would be 3. And I'll just select the rest of those. Press Alt, Shift, and Control. Release those buttons, and we'll do 4. So all those should now be routed properly for me. I can record, enable this one, in this case. Get input 2 right there. And just input 2. Record, enable this one instead. And we get just 3. Down here. Record, enable this one. Just getting 4. Record, enable this one. Just gonna get 5. But I have to hit a key that's actually on here. There we go. Just 5. So if I wanted all of that on different tracks, that is how you would set it up. All right. Different inputs and different MIDI tracks. So the output of the MIDI track, of course, is going into channel 8. Channel 8 is selected right here. All right. So now, you know, the way Pro Tools works anyway, I arm the correct track. I get input there. So that way I could then come in here just as an example. And this here would be input 1. Let me make sure it's on input 1. Right there. And say I want to record. All right, whatever you happen to record there. So you can see it's right there. So now whenever I play back, of course, it's just going to play just that. So then you would listen. Let me go ahead and arm this MIDI track here, which of course we know is going to channel 2, which is this Rhythmic suite right here, and only that Rhythmic suite. So now I can play my keyboard, right? So then I can listen back what we already have and add in, you know, something on another track there, which doesn't sound good in this case, but that's how you would do that. Maybe you want to add some of this other instrument here, right? So then head back to the beginning there and record, and of course, record in your new cymbal hit right there, which we have right here, which if we just hear that, just that, so only this instrument is being triggered with this MIDI. This MIDI up here is triggering just this here, right? And if we had MIDI here, it would just trigger that, okay? So that's how you can use your multis to record things to different tracks and really build your tracks up. It doesn't have to be what we've been doing with the other example and hitting one key and triggering everything at the same time. So there's our new build-up that we just added to our super awesome track here. Of course, I would probably trim this up as such. All right. Now, I'll also mention before we get to the demo, another thing you can do is change the output, create a separate stereo master output channel. You can do that for here. Let me come up here to the outputs. You can set up your outputs in KONTAKT, and of course have multiple outputs. So if I set this up to create a new one, it's already named for me. If I wanted this track to be on its own track, we can do that there. If I wanted this to be on its own output, do that there. Then I'd come in here and change this to the proper one. So this is actually track 2. So this here would be, choose OK on that. Yeah, I know. Come in here, and this would have to be 3. Just as an example. So these two, well, let's do this one here too. There we go. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. These different instruments are now going to go out different audio tracks. So now we just solo just that. If I play that back, you can see we're triggering this instrument. It's coming out 3, 4, but we're not hearing anything. Of course, that's because we need audio tracks to, give me 3 of those. We need audio tracks to actually get that audio. So plug in KONTAKT and stereo 3. Right here is stereo 4. And it depends, the name you actually see in your DAW depends on whether or not you're restarting things, whether you're naming things in here, because you can actually see different names. And now let me take this off of solo. I'm gonna hit solo in here and play back now. And we're still getting the output, but we're not getting the input. That's because in this case, we would need to actually restart Pro Tools and make sure we save that. And then in this case, we would restart Pro Tools. And now we're back here in Pro Tools and make sure we have this set up properly. So now you can see, because we restarted Pro Tools, our names are different. They actually match up to the track there. So select the proper input right there. There we go. See, we're actually getting the output, the audio output of just this Rhythmic suite in this case, but just this instrument into a separate output here in Kontakt, and that's going out to a audio track here in Pro Tools. So, and come down here, make sure I have MIDI input there. So we're playing, but we need to come in here now. Make sure we have this on the right input right there. Now we have input right there. Let me actually turn this one back right there. And let's put this one right there. And that right there. Make sure I have the MIDI input to it. So now we have MIDI coming in to this track right here, being routed out to Kontakt channel 3. That of course comes into Kontakt into this instrument right here. So you can see channel 3. The audio output is going out its separate track here, which we just created. That audio is being routed from here into Pro Tools. So that means, okay, all of that means if you want to record to separate tracks, audio to separate tracks, not just your MIDI, you can do that too. And that's not specific to Evolve. That's any Kontakt instrument, okay? Except for things like the drummer series where you have different kinds of multiple outputs, right? All right, so if I wanted to, let's actually record. I'm gonna come up here, and what I'm gonna do right now is make sure I have that works. So I'm just gonna record. I'm just recording the MIDI right now. That's long enough for our purposes. So there's that note we just recorded, which again is triggering our number 2 instrument there and coming out into this audio track here. So whenever I play these together, it's not necessarily going to sound good, but I'll show you what we can do here. So I can record, and then since we're playing back MIDI, right, it's going to trigger the sounds within Kontakt, and we will take this off here, and we will record that into Pro Tools here. Get this off there. Very good. Those tracks are armed. And record. That MIDI ended right there already. But there we go, man. So that is how you can actually record the audio to separate tracks instead of relying solely on MIDI. Okay. So just that track. Hear that. Treat it as audio now, which might be easier for you depending on what you're doing. Put whatever effects on there that you want now. Our different sound right there. Again, whatever effects you happen to want, throw them on there. You could, of course, output similar instruments out to the same output as well if you wanted to. All right, so if you wanted all of these all going out to audio, I don't know, 4 or audio 5, you could just set all of that up here and record all 3 of these instruments to one actual audio track. So that is using our multis here. Multiple ways to use our multis here in Kontakt. And lastly, if you want to cycle through your multis, we can use this button right there and cycle over to the next one right there, cycle over to the next one, so on and so forth. So that is your multis here in Evolve. All right, so that is everything you need to know about Evolve. So for the rest of this video, we're going to do a demo of the instruments and the multis. Let's start here with the instruments. So let's listen to some of these sounds. Obviously, I can't go through everything, right? But let's go ahead and listen to some of this. Always remember how things are mapped. There's a ton of loops. And don't forget, right, we can change our tempo. So change that to 90 there. Much slower, of course. Back to 120. There's so much stuff in Evolve. You're going to be finding things in here for years, honestly. Let's grab something else here. This is no trigger effects. As you can see, no trigger effects down here. All kinds of cool stuff. Again, don't forget to layer things up, right? So we'll go here. That's pretty cool. Find something you like. So that C sounds really good. Let's layer those together. All right, not bad, not bad. That's kind of cool. Again, out of time. There we go. So don't just sit there playing, one loop and saying, what's so amazing about Evolve? You gotta layer those things together, man. Right within the same instrument, or of course layering multiple instruments, as we've already seen when creating a multi. We throw two in here now, and right, much more interesting, man. Layering is the name of the game to make things, make it your own. It's cool. And let's layer some of this. That's cool. Maybe use the trigger effects with that, but solo this. Just hear some of the sounds we can get. All kinds of stuff. Of course, I can't go through. As I said, I can't go through everything here. Let's go to quirky and cartoony. Sounds kind of cool. Right? So layer this up. All right. Rock pop, hear one of those. So 02, rock pop 02, fewer samples in this than say 01 here. All right. It's kind of cool. Layer it with that. All right. All right. Don't forget your tempo as well. So that's looped percussives. We come in here to looped tonals. You're going to see or hear the difference here. Right? Right, we can tell by these black keys, there's different things in this area, in this area, and in this area. All right. So we'll check out a couple more looped tonals just to get an idea. Although the first thing you should do once you get Evolve is head over here to the multis and start over here, because that's where the real fun comes into play. Some of this here. Think of all of this individual stuff in terms of how would you use this with other things, right? Not just other things, other layers within the same instrument, but of course, other instruments of Evolve or other instruments of Kontakt, or obviously other instruments in your song, right? So let's do a couple more of these, maybe one more, just to get an idea of what this library can do. Chugging with dirt. Trigger effect. That's cool. Trigger effect. Chugging with grit. Here's chugging with grit, no trigger effects. So now we don't have that down here. Right, that would be really cool, right? I can already feel that groove in that, right? So I might want to add some sort of a percussive kit to that. And as we already know, switch this to Omni. You will be finding new combinations of these Evolve instruments to put together for years to come, not even to mention using them with other sources, other libraries, of course, in your song with other kinds of content. This is an incredibly deep and diverse library. Something else just to get an idea. Right, and these work good to layer with other things, of course. Just an idea of what it sounds like. Don't forget our sequencer there. Different patterns. Right. So comedy here. Let me get rid of this one. And switch this. Reset that. Reset that. Reset that. So getting the real samples there without any sequence going on. So all kinds of weird effects you can do here. Piano percussives. Again, just getting an idea here. Some of the sounds. Of course, we would, layer this up with other stuff. And we'll just come here and clear all that out. Here's tonals for your arpeggio. And if I reset that, that's what we're getting. We're using the sequencer to give us some sort of groove and arpeggio there. Multiple notes. All right. So again, don't forget, use multiple notes with all of this stuff. Layer things up, man. That's 2 notes, as you can see down here in the keyboard. 3 notes. Move it up the scale. All right, let's move on out of our rhythmic suites and do percussive kits. Start here with drum-like kits. All right. That's our grit kit. Here's grit kit, no trigger effects. Already heard that. Let's come to this brown air kit. This one is pretty funny. Again, don't forget your trigger effects, but we already know about that. Ready here? Yep, it's come to that. Fart noises. Yep. Again, layer this up, man. All right. On, is that dirt right there? Dirt on your brown air. I don't know about that. Don't know if you want any dirt on that. Cabinet. And of course your effects up there as well. Do one more. And the drum. Replace that. Drum-like kits. All kind of percussion in that percussive kit. Come to hits here. Yeah. Cavern kickers. up the scale till we get up here. Different stuff. Again, it's all about layering things, of course, unless that just works for you, which it might. I mean, this sound here could work really well in just a movie trailer. Right? Let's move on. Bada bing. So different things, again, look for your empty keys to signify different things. Whereas in a lot of newer libraries, these keys would just be different colors, right? Great samples in here. A lot of useful stuff in here. Go to a dumpster. Put this on delay. Make it slide in a bit more with that attack. Right? Almost like a whoosh in that case. All right. Let's go one more. Piano percussives. All kinds of sounds of a piano. All right. Metal and cymbals. Go through this pretty quick here. That's nice. All kinds of effects. Again, trigger effects, your master effects, your filters, and your amplitude envelope to really modify this stuff. You're combining that with other layers would really sound pretty cool. Go to one more. Gongs. Always love a good gong. Nice creepy sounds for a movie trailer there. Okay. Tool shed and warehouse. Grab something here. All kinds of samples in this one. Sweep and pump. Sweep and pump. What you tell your girlfriend to do. That was inappropriate. Trash and sprayer. Cool. We get down here. We got up here. All right. It's pretty cool. Nice. Awesome. Warehouse drums. Awesome. That's good enough for that one. And traditional ethnic drums. Sequence there. And shakers and tambourine in there as well. Stings and transitions, odd noises and build-ups. Go through a couple of these. Build up to fear. Here we go. Boom. Kind of some rises in here. Change that release. It goes right off now. All right. These are lower ones. Creep out. And that's holding down multiple notes there. Mating calls. It's pretty cool. Put a screamer on that. All right. Do one more. All the sounds you're going to need. for cinematic stuff, you know, making trailers. Pretty cool. Let's get rid of that. Check in here. Sweeping atonal stings. Another one here. A lot of good sweeping atonal stuff there. Here's tonal. Another one. Right. Just think of how that would sound with maybe something rhythmic here. Let me go with evolved here. Put that on Omni here. Just of course, you might not want those on the same MIDI note, of course, but we've already gone over how you could switch that up in your DAW. But layering, man, is how you really make this stuff come together. You can make some really cool stuff with just Evolve, not including anything else. Back here to tonal. Do a couple more of these. I think you get the idea. One more of those. All right, bunch of different kinds of tonal sweeps, all split apart here. Much higher up here, of course. All right. Next one. Piano effects sweeps. Again, always imagine layering this with other stuff. Making multis of this stuff. It's where the real power is. All right. Couple more here. One more. And one in here. Dumpster death. This would work good, you know, just on its own. Cool, cool, cool. Last one for this folder. All right, let's move on. Tonality and effects start here with bass. The attack up. Cool. All right, bass, synth, thumper. All right, one more. That's just one key. Like that alone would be your logo drop, right? Take the release up a bit. So that way, whenever I release the key, it continues to fade out, right? And as long as you watch that first section, you already know what the amplitude envelope does. All right. One here. Get rid of that one. Omni. Of course, remember, come in here and mess with things in there. There's a ton of sounds in this library. As you can tell, extremely diverse. But you will be finding sounds in this library for years. Anytime you load it up and just start experimenting, you know, whenever you have free time, you just come across some new sounds. Pretty cool. Let's go one more here. All right. It's piano. Awesome. That works on its own. Great for a trailer. Coming Sunday. The most horrific movie of 2019. Right? Slide it in here. Smiley piano. Last one for this folder anyway. Another one here. And vocals. Now these are pretty cool. You can see how they're split apart down here. These get pretty crazy. Right? Come up here. Of course, mess with your release there. Goes off. Nice creepy sounds there. Of course, imagine layering that with some of the other sounds we've already heard. Some of those stings and transitions would sound really good. Of course, with some of those rhythmic sweeps as well. Release back up. And a special one right up here. Let me turn this up so you can actually hear it. This is from the recording process.
We need to exhale. Exhale on 4.
Did anybody breathe
take a breath?
Exactly.
You have to exhale on 4.
All right. A lot of great usable samples in here. Of course, combined it with all of our effects. Opera. Of course, combine that with other things. This real quick. Might be cool. With this, of course, I would definitely have these routed to different MIDI tracks in this case, but I think we can get something usable out of this here. Make sure that's selected. Right. All right, just an example there of stuff you could do. Way up here. Way up here. Lots of different samples in that. Back down here to vocals. Let's do this last one. All right. One more folder here. Lots of stuff, man. Lots of stuff. Lots of samples. Let me pop into that actually there. grab this one, put that in there too. Silhouette for now. Okay, this one here. All right. Put those together. All right, really cool. Have those drums underneath it. Again, sounds really cool. All together. We could even put the vocals. Of course, adjust your levels. That quick, man. And that's one key, of course, because we have everything routed to the same track. We could do some of these arpeggiated hits in there too. Let me put this down there. Just holding down one key. Right? You can do stuff really quick with this. Of course, save that as a multi, as we've already looked at if you wanted to. But let's come back here and head through these a little bit more. Great build up there. Ambient. Kind of spooky. Last one here. Nice swells. All right. Head through these here pretty quick. Awesome. Rumblings. Cool. Pre-rainforest. Can always again head back here. Make sure the wave editor's on. This sample here plays through, hits down here, and then loops over and over. Reverse it if you want. All right. A lot of good stuff in there. Do one more here. Again, so like I said, you find new sounds all the time, and right, they can give you really quick ideas. And of course, we don't have to stick with just Evolve when building our multis or when working in Kontakt, whatever, right? So maybe putting some action strikes on that with this sound would be pretty cool. Grab some strings here. You can make a really cool hybrid, sort of an orchestral action track pretty quick with this. Let's see, we're in the effects, right? So let me come in here. A couple of these. Pretty cool. Again, once you get this library, you're going to have to go through it yourself. Sort of make note of what you like. Last one. Just that would be a great intro screen right there. In fact, I think I've heard this. I know I've heard that on the ID channel a few times, actually. All right. On to some of our expanded content here in our instruments. You see this envelope here. Right, so you can change things up back here if you want to. Now MW, so mod wheel. Pretty cool. Trump jump. Mapped, looped, slices. We have a lot of folders here. I'm not going to go through everything. You see these are by key right there. And all of our slices up here. Dramatic evolved. You remember back here we have dramatic evolved right there. Okay. Let's come back here. Expanded content in the mapped, looped slices now. So we can kind of dig into that a little bit more by using this here. All right. So I'm not going to go through all of these because there's no need to. All the slices there. All right. Rock pop. So if we solo just this sort of element of the rock pop, A-1, go up the scale here. Right. Then come to this one. Go to our A-1 key here. The same sample there. Right? Except here it's pitched. All right. Percussive kits. Here's all hats kit. If you have a need for that. All right. Impactosaurus. Great for trailers here. That's really low. If you have a sub, you'll really hear that. If you don't have a sub, you're probably not hearing anything right now. All right. Trailer smash. Perfect. Takes a while to come in for this one here, but it's coming. There it is. All right. Drum Evolve BPM mod wheel. Let me put that in there. Mod wheel up. Again, don't forget, we can always change the BPM of this stuff here. Let's go to middles and more. Layer those up. All right, last one here. All right. Then we have tonal. Just do a couple of these. And lower there. Change the sequence around a bit. Enough of those. Surround, instruments. Grab this here. Last one here. perfect for your space movie there. All right. And a rhythmic tonal. All right. Of course, change your patterns there as well. And on to more tonality and effects. Boom. Start dancing. All right. You're going to remember, right click, learn that MIDI to your keyboard and adjust that in real time. Do one more here. Anytime you see MW, that's your mod wheel. All right. Pads and effects. All right. So that is all of our expanded content. All right, so we've gone through all of our instruments. Of course, not hearing every single one, but hearing several examples from each different category here. Now, on to the multis. And of course, I've already shown how you can make your own. So let's load up some of these pre-programmed multis here. Of course, expand that out. As you should know, whenever you load up the multi first here, the first time you load it up here like this, of course, these are all set to different MIDI tracks, right? But for our purposes of just testing them out, I'm going to set all of this to Omni. Of course, you probably wouldn't want to do that, at least not on all of them, because there's different sounds that you would want to program with your separate MIDI tracks, as we've already covered. But just for the sake of hearing everything together, we'll set that as such. You definitely want that on a different track, for your MIDI. To trigger that at different times. Hear that, and this, right. I'm just holding one key, but we could do multiples, of course. Really layer things up. Of course, remember your trigger effects if you happen to have any in that multi. But with this one, obviously with routing things to different tracks, you have plenty to work with for your big screen devastation. Just double click this one and replace that multi. Of course, these are all routed. A1, A2, so on and so forth. I could if I wanted to, since these are all routed. But come up here, and I'll quickly route these here. There we go. All right. Try another one here. Span that out. That's what we have with just that one layer. 2 layers. 4 layers. Get all these here. Again, just holding down one key right now. So you can set up your multis, of course, to be used with just one key, one MIDI track. Or obviously split things out. All of these work well together. And of course, I could load this in with it. Just merge it in. But let me actually just grab some percussion here. Right there. To pump this up another notch. All right, much better. Down. That's fine. It's okay. There we go. Just holding down 2 keys in that case. Of course, if I liked that multi that we added that instrument to, could of course save it up here. Replace all of that. I'm not going to go through everything, but just get an idea of what's out there, right? So that's pretty cool. Let's add some stuff to it here. All right. Skip a few here. You know, if you want some things routed to the same MIDI note, you could do that. And then, of course, route other ones. Not MIDI note, but MIDI port. Do that as well. Here's what we have so far. All on the same port. There we go. Disco Revolution. Add these. All right. Of course, this one would work way better routed to different MIDI tracks. Pretty cool. What's playing here? That one, those. Just some ideas here. All right. And let me change this. 90. All right, just an idea there. Just one key. And of course, I didn't mention it, but it should be obvious. We can pan these within Kontakt as well, but that's for any Kontakt instrument. Also, right-click that and learn the automation for that if you want to, draw that in as well. But let me switch all these. One key in this case. Perfect ambience. All right. Now we're coming along. All right. Of course, set up all your effects and any trigger effects that you might have. Here's some of this. Cool. Works well together. Right, always look at what is in your multis to get an idea of, sounds that you want to create yourself. That's cool. All right. Cool. So there's the multi we created earlier. Let's do a few more here. All right, this is going to be a weird one. This one would probably work best with different MIDI tracks, of course. Probably. Especially so we could get some more of those grungy kit hits in here. Right. But there's nothing wrong with using it sort of like an impact. Works pretty well like that. Let's add some more stuff in here. What do we got? All right. Don't forget, you can always change the tempo. All right. Next one here. See how all these things blend together. It's what makes this such a great library and why it's still being sold after 10 years. Holding down one key, man. I mean, you could score a sing like this with one key. Your job is done. You know, adjust your tempo, adjust your effects. That's simple, dude. Awesome. Of course, adjust your layers, the volume. Pull this one in here. It's 2 keys. All right. I guess we'll go through all of these here. Pretty much all of them. Now this probably be best to separate MIDI tracks again. Of course, don't forget we can also route this stuff out to individual audio tracks if you want to record the audio, not rely on the MIDI. But just to hear it all together as an example. All right. Can you feel that? Wow. Okay. Sounds kind of like the Disturbed intro, right? Of course, the real power of this is customizing things, the effects, trigger effects, and setting up your own multis. But there's plenty in here to get you started. Put this on 100. All right. Next one here. So those work together pretty well, actually. Of course, I could load another multi in here. For those who don't know, if I wanted big screen devastation in there, I could double click it and choose no, and that's going to merge it in here. So now we're going to have a ton of instruments in there now. But of course, they're not routed correctly. Our drums are routed right. It's kind of cool. That works. Of course, combine your multis here if you want to get real crazy. All right. What we got? It's going to be a cool one. Don't forget your different presets in here. All right. Couple more here. All right. All right, you can play around with that one all day long. 3 keys there. Let's move on. Get through these here. Now this would probably be much better on separate MIDI tracks because we have so many voices going on here. I'm not sure how they're going to play together, but just for the sake of consistency, we'll hear this all together. Those clash a little bit there. So definitely better for those, in my opinion, to have those at different MIDI tracks, but you can hear some of them go along pretty well. It's not bad there. All right, let's move on to the last included multi. Obviously, you can make your own. Nice rain in there. All right, so that is Heavyocity EVOLVE, an extremely diverse collection of instruments, some multis to get you going here. Of course, so many things: rhythmic, suites, percussive, kits, stings, transitions, tonality effects, and that new content that you get in the modern version of Evolve. If you see some older videos, you will see the interface does look different, but yes, this is the same Evolve. So that is Evolve from Heavyocity. for Native Instruments KONTAKT.